Welcome. This is a snack bowl interview I'm doing with Scott. Scott is a graduate of the University of Liverpool that I've got to meet over the last few months. Welcome, Scott. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
And we're doing a snack bowl, which is a really cheesy way of just asking each other questions. We haven't looked at them before. The idea is that they are all coming straight from our mouths without having time to think about it too much. We've all got a snack bowl, so that's really good. So, so Scott, shall I ask you the first question?
Sure.
Okay, so in no particular order, what would you say to students watching this who are looking for help and advice with their careers?
I'd say that the more you talk to people, the easier it gets. When you start off and you leave uni and you go out trying to find a first job, most of the time you're very lucky if you know exactly what you're going to do. Whether you're a doctor, medical students and people like that, they know exactly what they're going to do. It's route one. But for a lot of people, they don't know. And I was certainly one of those people. So the more that you talk to people, the more confident you get in expressing yourself. And then secondly, the more ideas you get off other people, which is really helpful actually, because you could think of roles that or industries that you wouldn't even considered yourself working in.
Yeah.
People can sort of steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think whilst you're at uni, you've got no idea really, unless, as you say,
it's the last thing in the world you think about.
No, fair enough. Okay, so why don't you ask me a question now? And this better be a nice one.
Where does Inspo get its mentors from?
Good question. We sign up companies. So we have a sales process to identify companies where we think there's going to be really interesting mentors. And they come from different industries. So we sign up a business like Gallagher, London Stock Exchange, Euroclear, accountancy firms, law firms, whatever. And then their employees who want to become mentors can. So, and then they use the app and they use the platform and they're able to speak to people like yourself. Easy as that. Right, okay, one for me, for you. Okay, did you or have you used your university career support before or after using Inspo?
I haven't used I got in contact with them directly afterwards, and my university had a program which is a bit like LinkedIn called Handshake.
Yeah.
But because of where I wanted to work, it didn't prove particularly useful for me personally, just because of the things I wanted to do. But
okay, so that's what they use. Also, bear in mind that you have had the joy of COVID as well whilst you're at university, so everything was slightly less functioning, not quite as it should, not humming at 100%, I guess.
Yeah, everything sort of had to move online, so it's not quite the same. Wasn't quite the same service.
No,
in a way.
Understood. Okay, thank you for that. Right, Scott, one for me, please.
Can students get a job with Inspo?
They can, yes. It's not something that we push because most of our clients are primarily offering their mentoring advice. But saying that, if they like you and they think you're fantastic and all the rest of it, then they might offer you work experience. They might ask you to think about applying for a job there. So it can always evolve into that. But the primary purpose of Inspo is to provide inspiration through the mentoring, and then obviously it gets better and more exciting from there. But saying that, my ultimate aim is that anybody that uses the platform gets a job through the end of it. So wouldn't that be amazing? But we're not there yet.
Yeah, well, you're not a recruitment site. You're sort of a helpline in a way for people who are struggling to think about what they want to do or looking for CV advice or.
Yeah, I think the way I try and word it to organizations is that we're providing like a surrogate friends and family network. So even if you are really well connected and your family's really well connected, but the field you want to go into is something that you've got no connections with, can we help there? Or, I mean, as you know, Inspo is about helping those that don't have a network and have nothing. And that's when it really comes into its own, because you know, if you don't have any network and we're able to help, how fantastic is that? So that's what we're all about, really.
Yeah, exactly. Not everyone's as fortunate as others in that regard.
Yeah, so true. Right. Okay. You've used Inspo, so you've been on the app and you've been on the website. Is there any feature you wish Inspo had that it doesn't currently have, apart from obviously a job at the end of it?
I've looked at Inspo, and it's very easy to contact mentors. Actually, it's really easy to use. But I don't know whether I didn't notice it or whether there is. But was there a platform to get in touch with other students?
Interesting question. No, not yet, but that will be one of the iterations that we're going to do. Because, for instance, if you're looking to get into a particular field and then others are doing the same sort of thing, if we were able to enable you to connect so you can cross-refer knowledge, do you think that would be quite useful?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah, because it's especially if you're a student who's looking to move into a different city, you're moving to go away, and just to sort of have a network of people who are of a similar mind, you know, in a similar boat, so to speak, I think would be quite very useful to people.
Okay, Scott, I'm going to have to put my developer hat on, aren't I? I'm going to have to build that piece of functionality.
It's not the easiest thing, no.
Okay, is it my turn to ask you one?
I think it's me to ask you.
Yeah. Okay.
So, was there any moment with Inspo that affirmed to you the system's working?
That affirmed to me, i.e., that we think it's worthwhile. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky enough to be mentoring at the moment 3 or 4 students, and I was having a really grim day last week, and you know, it was just basically banging out, you know, doing my sales thing, which I do enjoy, but some of it's quite mundane. And then I had a mentoring session that evening, and I was speaking to this student, and all of a sudden, he can't believe this guy was at Manchester Met, and he couldn't believe, what, you mean I can speak to all of these people and it doesn't cost me a thing, and they're all wanting to help me, and it doesn't. So when you hear stories like that, it really does bring it home. And this student was, wow. So off the back of me meeting him, I think he connected with a couple of other mentors as well, thinking, well, I want to get into software. I'll speak to these guys and see how they can help me. So yeah, that was a great fillip, I think. Makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? Okay. Why did you decide to sign up to Inspo?
Well, having met you told me what it was all about, and I think the part of it which sort of convinced me to have a look at it was the idea of just getting in touch with some people who might be able to steer me in the right direction. Because there's so many different recruitment services, there's so many different graduate recruitment programs, and it's very overwhelming. So actually, to get talking to people who have some inside industry knowledge, they can help steer you in the right direction much easier, and that's happened for me. So
I'm just thinking because obviously I can't go around and meet every student individually, because that's quite time consuming. So how do we circulate that news, do you think? What would be the best way that we get that message out to students? Like,
it's difficult. I think maybe the killer blow for you guys would be to come up with some way of getting into the universities themselves, whether it's, you know, universities have big career fairs, whether it's getting a stall up there or
okay,
you know, so you can present what you are to students at the university campuses.
Okay, and do it that way, because then it's one to many, isn't it? Because obviously individuals is going to be quite tricky. Okay, I think That is really good feedback. Thank you for that. See, I knew this was going to be a useful chat. Thank you, Scott.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay, question for me, please, and then I've got one for you.
So, what advice would you give students on the platform?
Okay, so what I try and do is what we've built is a 5-stage engagement for each student. So if I'm meeting you for the first time, Scott, you might just be asking me for help because you've got an interview next week and you just want, crikey, what questions should I prepare for, or what should I do in advance of the interview? But say we're coming in cold and you just started the process. There are 5 things that we can run through. We can obviously get to know each other to find out what your passions are and what your interests are. We can then describe the sector that I work in. So what is Inspo? Well, it's a software firm. So how does it compare to other software firms? It's quite small. I guess that's one thing I would say. The Inspo is as opposed to the industry. We would then go through your CV and your covering letter, make sure that's fit for purpose. We would go through interviews. So how should you prepare for them? What blogs would be relevant? What should you read up? Periodicals, like, specialists, depending upon what sector you're going into. And then what questions might you want to prepare for as well? And then the last session that we would recommend is it's a bit of reverse mentoring. So that's when I ask you questions as opposed to me asking me, and I'm asking you questions about Gen Z. So I'll be asking you what's important to Scott, what's important to Gen Z about social activism, about hybrid working, about what interests you, what's going to make you choose one firm over another, so that Inspo or an employer can prepare and make sure they get the best out of Gen Z. You represent 20% of the workforce already, you as in Gen Z. So that's a fifth. So it's important that businesses are prepared, because you do view the world differently to, say, me. And I mean that positively. So climate activism, for instance, that's really important to Gen Z. So how do we show that we care about it so that it makes it more interesting for you? Anyway, that's me on a bit of I should stop. These are supposed to be quick fire. Okay, last one. What was your thought process in choosing a mentor? So when you land on that page, you've got a list of mentors. How did you decide which ones to connect with?
Well, I noticed that on some of your mentors, some mentors sign up for different things, different sort of categories of advice. Some is specifically for interview help. Some people are just sort of general industry knowledge sort of help.
Yeah.
And then others is help with your CV. And then you have the people who are really helpful and they help you with everything. So I chose, and I was looking for a job as well. So I looked online and looked in. Luckily, you had signed on with the Gallaghers.
Yes.
There were a few people on Gallaghers there. So I noticed that one of them was a talent acquisition manager. So I set up a meeting there, and she was very helpful.
Fantastic. Okay.
Mainly because I was looking for a job, so I thought if she's a talent acquisition manager, she might know whether they're employing or not. So
that is exactly right. I mean, and I think some of our companies are, they're like Gallaghers, as you mentioned, is really keen to have a throughput of. They want to meet students that are really interested in insurance, and get them interested in insurance, because it's. Like I was speaking to them the other day, like they insure Lionel Messi's left foot, for instance. They've got some bizarre policies that they've got. I mean, it's just really cool things that they do, but you don't know about.
Yeah, you can insure anything. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay. Are there any more questions, or are we?
I think I have one more question for you.
Oh, crikey. Okay.
Is there any one industry that Inspo focuses on?
No. The idea is that no matter what you do or what you're interested in doing, we want to have companies within those sectors. So if you're studying film, then we'd love to have film companies as mentors. If you want to go into insurance, have insurance companies. If you want to go into what else are we? We've got accountancy firms, we've got lawyers, we've got insurance brokers, we've got a couple of banks, we've got all sorts of different sectors in there. We want some charities in there, some not-for-profit. So the idea is, when you are at uni, wouldn't it be amazing if no matter every field is covered? And that's my job. That's what I've got to get. I've got to get mentors from all fields in that area and covering all different departments. So are you interested in going into HR, or are you interested in going to sales? So I've got to make sure that that's my job, though, is to, from a sales perspective, is to get everybody sorted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just quickly, let's just wrap up, because I know, so you have actually just found a job as well, which is great news. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I've found a job as a trainee chip broker,
Fantastic.
which you didn't cater for on Inspo. I didn't get it through Inspo, but the way that Inspo helped me was identify, and is what I was saying earlier. It's about how you express yourself in a way. And I think the more people that you talk to and the more help you receive, actually, you figure out what you want more. And then once you've done that, you can sort of express that with more confidence. And I think that really helped me going into the job interview that I had for the job that I've received now.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
It's so good, because, as you say, you get more confidence by speaking to people, understanding what they're doing, and it hopefully, even if it's not directly assisting you, it's going to give you indirect assistance. So that's perfect. Thank you. But please do anybody... Sorry, mate. Sorry, Scott.
Sorry, I was just going to say that what Inspo did as well, it just so happens that I got the shipbroking role, but I was looking for other jobs in other industries as well. So I was looking for jobs in insurance. And the mentor that I had, who worked for Gallagher, she put me in touch with some specific insurance recruitment agencies who I'd never have heard of unless I'd had that conversation. So these people have some industry inside knowledge that can be really, really beneficial, regardless of whether you end up getting that job, because lots of graduates scatter bomb their job applications and see what comes back, which is exactly what I did, because I had a few things that I thought, oh, I might like to do that. And one of them came back. So it will happen.
Well done. And you're going to be doing shipbroking now, so you can come back at some stage and tell us what that's all about. In fact, we'll get you to sign up as a mentor once you've started.
Yeah. And once I know what I'm talking about.
But you've just been through the job process, so that would be amazing. But yeah, congratulations, Scott. Really, really pleased for you, and thank you for taking part in this very highbrow Snap Bowl catch up. That's very kind.
Yeah, you're welcome. No trouble at all.